series. We are going to be talking about manifesting today and all the steps that you need to take to align with your ideal reality and ideal self, how manifesting works on a quantum level, and how emotions, processing your emotions, inner child healing, and rituals, like the rituals that you use, are all the steps that you need to use in tandem with one another to bring these things in, okay? And these are all steps that I have learned on my journey and have utilized to help shift me into a new reality. I'm in a completely different one than I was like 15 years ago. So I'm very blessed and thankful for that. And I'm thankful for everybody that's in this community on TikTok and YouTube, because y'all have helped me get here. So I appreciate you. So if you are on YouTube, remember to like and subscribe and hit the bell notification if you want to see more workshops like this. Also check the description below for ways that we can work together, or if you're watching live, you can do that in my bio link. Okay, so emotions, we're going to talk about those first, processing your emotions. So as empaths and light workers and neurodivergents, some of us have signed up for a heavier soul contract. Because you might feel like that in here, that you're like, oh wow, me and my higher self gave me a doozy. Okay, this is just like, oh, thank you for the follow. This is some like just heavy trauma things that we have been through, and like pain and things like that, okay? And a lot of times we experience those because we end up helping other people with them, right? But, okay, everybody's like, yeah. But what comes along with that is the trauma and the stuff that, you know, like blocks up our chakras, and sometimes it makes it a little more difficult to manifest when you've been through those things, because you still have like a lot of trauma energy to process through you, right? And so when we're talking about our emotions, me and mine thought we could handle it all. Yeah, I feel that. Me too. So when we're talking about processing our emotions, that is how we manifest. Like, that's the thing that a lot of people miss, is there's the 3D reality thing that you're trying to bring in, whether it's like a career or a new car or a home, or, you know, $1 million, whatever that is for you, okay? And they get so like hyper fixated on the material thing that they don't realize you have to tap into the emotions underneath whatever that manifestation is to actually bring it in, because emotions are the fuel for our manifestations. Like, we think about something you want to manifest right now. What is that emotion it would bring you? Is it peace, joy, happiness, safety, and security are also an emotion, right? Freedom, feeling relaxed, right? Our fun is an emotion. Magic is also an emotion. Whimsy is an emotion, right? And so when we focus more on the emotional side of things, and we can tap into the frequency of the emotion, then the universe starts bringing us things that we didn't even ask for. It's like, oh, you like this? I'll bring you more. It's like an algorithm, the way that the universe and you work, kind of like your social media. Like, what you put in and what you pay attention and energy to is what you're going to get reflected out into your outer reality. So if we're experiencing a lot of trauma that hasn't been processed, and a lot of icky, yucky emotions like anger and grief and sadness and feeling lost and confused, you know, all this, which is normal. We want to feel those things because it creates contrast to the good feelings. Like, how would you know what bliss feels like if you didn't know what really deep sadness feels like? Okay, vice versa. And it's totally okay to feel those things. It's when we are not processing them and we get stuck and we're just bathing in them is when our manifestations start not coming in. Okay, so I'm going to show everybody this chart so I give you a better representation. Okay, so when we experience trauma and we're not processing it, it becomes very heavy and dense in our body. It also skews our perceptual lenses of how we see and interact with the world and other people. It causes behavioral patterns and triggers, right, that keep us stuck in life. It also ties with strength and gaining a teaching ability. Oh yeah, for sure. Trauma can be the best teacher for yourself and others. Empaths, light workers, and neurodivergents, hypersensitive people are extremely powerful manifestors because you're very hypersensitive to frequencies. And so if you are experiencing a lot of self-limiting beliefs and negativity, it kicks on your central nervous system and your fight or flight. And this is where you start feeling burnt out and sluggish in life. And there's a like zest, no magic. And then we start feeling stress and anxiety and fear. Now we're manifesting from that place. And because you are an extremely powerful manifester, you're pulling in more of those experiences. That was me for the majority of my life. Like I was so triggered 24/7 in my fight or flight, and my central nervous system was just like wrecking my body. Not only my physical body, but like spiritual, emotional body, mental body. Stress and anxiety and fear will do damage in all areas of your life. But I was addicted to stress and anxiety, which you can have a codependent relationship with those things, because I was using them as fuel to get things done, because I did not realize that I was neurodivergent or how to function as someone who is neurodivergent. But anyway, so if we have a lot of that sitting up in us, it's pushing our manifestations away from us, because you're pumping stress and anxiety and worries about the how's it going to happen, when's it going to happen, and so you're going like this. Okay, so we have to make room in our energy field and energy body to feel the feelings that you need to feel in order to bring those manifestations in. So if you want to get a new career, house, you know, whatever, relationship, if you think about it, you're going to have to already feel happiness, joy, bliss, peace in order to align with the frequency of that manifestation. Okay, so this is a vibrational chart of emotions, and you can see it works like the chakra system. We've got like root chakra down here all the way up to your crown chakra. So when we are in childhood is when we're getting programmed. Like we're learning how the world works from our parents, teachers, and guardians. Some of that stuff's not good stuff, okay? Because we're taking on other people's fears and projections and perceptions and self-limiting beliefs, and we just have that running in our body now and in our mind. And that's how, you know, we have behavioral patterns and triggers, generational trauma, and all that stuff. Babies aren't born with those things. So a lot of times people feel so like shameful and guilty over experiencing these things. They're not your fault. Like you learn those things from somebody. Like lack mentality, people pleasing, perfectionism, like those are all trauma responses from something that happened to you, right? And you just kept that cycle going. So when I learned that those things were not my fault, it took like so much trauma energy up out of my body, because I stopped berating myself and saying like, oh, you're not good enough, or why can't you just do this and that, and blah blah blah. It's like, no, we need to take some of that pressure off. Are you okay, Daisy? My puppy over here. Took so much pressure and shame and guilt off of me, because I was like, okay, it's not my fault, it's my responsibility to heal, but I didn't damage myself, if that makes sense. So when we're in childhood, most of our root chakra and sacral chakra and solar plexus are being formed during that time, and that's also where we incur a lot of trauma. And you can incur trauma at any time, or PTSD, right, in your like formative years. Your your prefrontal lobe cortex, your logical reasoning, is not fully formed until you are 26 years old. And so you're really still coming from like a child consciousness until then. Like you're still more evolved, but like that programming, societal programming, people's projections, trauma and stuff, it's still like forming your personality. Up until like 7 or 8 years old, most of your personality is set. It's very like malleable, like you can change things, but it's really set. And then you start interacting with the world with whatever lenses you were given. Okay, so down here We have heavier emotions like shame, guilt, anger, grief, fear, jealousy, all this stuff. Those are usually held in your bottom chakras. And so they block you. I call them filter lenses because they're not concrete blocks, okay? So they create filter lenses, and then it's more difficult for you to be up here in your upper chakras. And this is like enlightenment, peace, joy, love, acceptance, all these things, forgiveness. You need to be up here in order to manifest the things that you want to. Because if you're trying to manifest through all of these icky, yucky emotions that, and I don't want to call them icky, yucky emotions, but just heavier, denser emotions that haven't been processed, then you get more of this, the ones that we don't want. So we have to raise our vibration and frequency up here to align with our manifestations. Okay. Yes, from a psychology brain development, it's like 6, 7, 8 years old. Our personality is there. So if you've got parents or guardians that taught you a bunch of behavioral patterns that are not going to serve you, or you experience trauma, and trauma is relative. Trauma looks different for everybody. Like when I'm talking to my clients, sometimes they're like, I didn't have any trauma. And I'm like, okay, let me reframe this for you. I'm going to do this for everybody so you can kind of see. You have to think about when we're looking back at our life as an adult, and we look at the things that happened during our childhood, we're like, oh, it's not a big deal, or my parents were doing the best that they could. Like we rationalize over some of the things that we experienced. But if you're looking through your childhood lenses, it can be very scary and traumatic for them. Like if you have a parent that is constantly screaming at you, okay, as an adult, you might be like, okay, well, it is what it is. Or they were like under a lot of stress, right? But a child, let's take like a 5-year-old child looking at a parent, right? That's probably very, very scary. And it's going to cause trust issues and abandonment issues too, because your emotional needs are not being met. And it can be you retracting into yourself and then causing throat blockages where you have trouble communicating, where you become a people pleaser, right? So anytime you're looking at trauma that you are experiencing in the here and now, you need to think back, how far back can I remember with this thing, and what do I think a child would be experiencing with that thing? Not you as an adult. Like how old you were, what do you think a 12-year-old was experiencing with that trauma? Because it's vastly different than what you would experience as an adult. Okay, because when I do inner child healing with people, I'll talk to the adults about it, and then we go in there and talk to their inner child, like they talk to their inner child, and they're like, it's very emotional, because most of the inner children like incur so much damage, right? And I'm going to give a more tangible example. So let's say that you have a 5-year-old that has, hey Nadia, let's say that you have a 5-year-old that has a drawing that they created, and then they come to the parent, and they're like, hey, look at this. Okay. And they're very creative, and the parent says that you could have done so much better, or I don't have time to look at that, or it's just, critical or dismissive, or says you're never going to make money at that, you should go do something else. What that inner child is hearing is, this is not an important thing in my life. And that child could have become like a really, great artist, but in the background now we have programming and self-limiting belief that says, I'll never make money at this, I'm not good enough, I could be better, worthiness, and then that bleeds out into other areas of your life too. Like all of these things are interconnected with one another. It's like a big web. Then there's me who is like, don't tell me what to do. I'm going to be the best artist ever. Yeah. That has been a thing that has reoccurred in my life. Like I love when people tell me I can't do something, because I'm be like, watch this. So that's great fuel for me as well. But you gotta think that trauma is relative, and it's also relative to your inner child. So what you think is not a big deal, we need to go in and like talk to them, because it is a really big deal to them when it happens, and it creates these like energetic scars, and that's where your behavioral patterns and triggers are coming from most of the time, is childhood. So how do we process our emotions to feel the good ones to manifest? Okay, so Emotions are there to help you. A lot of times we get like so wrapped up in like, I am sadness, I am anger, I am frustrated. Those are just things that you're channeling. Any emotion, we are energy emotion. Anything that you are experiencing is temporary. And the more that you realize that you're not those things, just like you're not your thoughts. Have you ever had a thought and then you decided whether you align with it or not? You're like, oh, I don't think I believe that. That means that you're not your thought. You're observing your thought as a higher consciousness form. The same thing with your emotions. It's just something that's running through. And when I realized that, it really helped me process them differently. Because I'm like, oh, this is just temporary. Like, yeah, I'm feeling this right now. That's fine. Okay. The next step to this is treating them like children. Because most of us have... Oh, thank you for the follow. Oh, hey, Leslie! Hey! Hold on. I'm going to follow you. Can you comment in here, Leslie? Like, say hey. She does incredible soul art. Y'all need to go follow her and check her out. Like, it is like mind-blowing. Soul art by Leslie here. She is incredible. It's very good to see you. Sorry, I got off track, my ADHD. Let's see. I was talking about inner child healing. I lost it. Hold on. I'll swing it back around. Oh, talking to them like children. Okay. Okay. So, your emotions are trying to alert you to something. They're trying to tell you something is off or out of alignment. Like if you're feeling angry or sad, good morning, or angry, sad, frustrated, feeling grief, it's like, hey, something is off. It's trying to redirect you to a reality that is more in alignment. And so we have to stop berating our emotions and saying they're no good and like, oh, I don't want to feel these. Like, you want to friend your emotions. When you start doing that, they're much easier to process when we start treating them like children. Okay? So what happens when you have a child and you're ignoring them? Some of them retract into themselves, and then some of them get louder and louder and louder. And then if you keep stuffing them down, they're going to come out eventually. And sometimes we don't see how things are correlated. Like if you have not been holding boundaries with people in your life, then you're just like compressing all that inside of you, and then you have like a major freak out in traffic and just like blow up. It's probably because you have all this stuff that has just been sitting down in there, and it's going to come out in some form or fashion. You snapping at your kids, you struggling at work. Like, that stuff doesn't just go away. It becomes anxiety and depression and disease. And it's not necessarily all the reasons for anxiety and depression. I don't want to say that because sometimes that's like a chemical imbalance, but a lot of the reason that people experience that, and me myself in my past, was because I was suppressing my emotions. And I was like, I don't want to feel those, right? Because it's not fun to feel them. Like, it kicks on your fight or flight. It kicks on your central nervous system. It brings up emotions from the past that maybe you don't want to look at, but it's going to be in there until you look at it and until you process it. And again, it directly affects your manifestations. Because if you're just sitting up in negativity and self-limiting beliefs and fear and anxiety, then of course your manifestations are going to be blocked. And they're not going to come in. Because that's not the emotions that you need to manifest. So, we're going to talk to them like a small child. So, next time that you... And everybody's like talked to kids before, right? Like in your journey experience. It doesn't have to be like if you're newer to inner child healing, just imagine that you're talking to a child. Okay? So the next time that we're feeling anger is a big one. Usually what's up underneath anger, the frequency under there, is sadness. So I want you to think about that next time. Like, is this actually making me sad for some reason? Because if you can get to the sadness, then it's easier to process. Oh, thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. Your wisdom is always profound and appreciated, Sage. Oh, thank you. Okay. So let's say that we're feeling incredibly angry, like triggered. Okay, somebody has like disrespected you. Okay, so your anger is trying to alert you to something that is off, whether it's with yourself or somebody else. And if you ignore it, then it's going to get louder. And so what we want to do is we want to sit with that emotion, and you're going to have to feel it in your body. You're going to have to feel your central nervous system and your fight or flight kick on. Like, there's no way around that. But what I'm about to show you is how you can get out of it faster. So we're sitting there and we're saying, hey, anger, I see you, and you are completely valid. And I love you so much. Thank you for letting me know that you're upset. That's great. We're going to sit here together and we're going to process this, and you can run it through my body. We can scream as loud as we want to up here, or envision that we're hitting a piñata. And I'm going to hold your hands while we process this together. And you're going to envision that anger is a small child inside of you. And y'all are sitting there holding hands and letting that child just go at it. Okay? And it's not going to feel good in your body. But what happens is you become the higher self, and you're coming from an observation state. You're still feeling it, but you are not it. You're saying, like, I recognize you, I validate you, I love you, thank you. Now we're channeling it. It's so much easier when we break apart from that being to the observing. This is something that you have to practice over and over and over again, but once you get it, it will completely transform your life. Like, and I'm going to give an example. So, I was going to go to my son's birthday party, right? And his father and I are not together anymore. And his father said something to me that was like very triggering. He didn't mean it to be, okay? But he didn't take my feelings into consideration, like, when this was said. I went to like a level 1,000 of anger. Okay. Like, I was so angry. And I said, I'm gonna go take a walk. And so I go outside, start walking around, and I was like, anger, thank you so much for telling me that you're here, because we should be angry about that. Like, you are totally valid in being angry. But right now is not the time for that, because we're about to go to the birthday party. Okay, I said, but I promise you that when we get home, I will process this with you, because sometimes we are not in the space or place to do this. Okay, like if you're at work or whatever, but you have to make time. You have to make time to process your emotions. Schedule it in. Are you busy? Schedule time to process your emotions. Like, sometimes I'll be like, listen, we need to wait until tomorrow at 3 p.m. and then we can just like run through all of it. That's fine. So I told anger, we're gonna process this when we get home. And so immediately the anger relaxed. The anger was like, okay, all it wanted me to do is validate. Okay, so then I get home and I said, okay, anger, let's do it. I said, you can use my body. We're gonna experience it together. I'm gonna hold your hand, and then when we get done, we're gonna go do something fun together. And so I was just started like crying my eyes out, and I just felt like it was so intense inside of my body. I felt like my body was on fire. And then after like 5 minutes, I released it, and anger was like, thank you. And then I went and did something fun as like a reward for anger. Right? But I treated it like it was a child, because where that anger was coming from was a past version of me. Okay? And past that was me having anger from childhood, from being disrespected and not given the support that I needed. Most of your emotions that are current behavioral patterns and triggers and blocks are coming from unprocessed emotions from childhood. Like, this works in layers. You have to heal things on your adult subconscious mind to be able to get to your inner children. Like, let's say that you're healing people pleasing. Like there's so much you need to do in your adult, but then you have to go heal your inner children in the root of it. Otherwise it's not gonna be fully healed if that came from childhood. And you have to heal your inner children differently than you do yourself. Like you're not going to do the same things that you do for your adult conscious mind as you would a 5-year-old. So processing your emotions like this is a great way to learn how to connect to your inner children, because there's eventually going to come a point where you find the root of these things. Like you can have anger and sadness in you for years and years and years and years and years that it just has not been processed and they have not been validated. So you learning to do it in the present with your present emotions will help you chip away at those layers. Okay. But since I started processing my emotions like that, they just run through me so much easier. Like anytime that I feel anxiety, I'm like, hey, anxiety, thank you for alerting me that something's off. Let's sit together and just experience that with one another. And I'm not saying that you won't have like a whole sad or angry day or a couple of days, but that's different than having 6 months or a year or years of depression and anxiety, because I've lived that life too, and that's not fun. Okay, I would much rather have a couple of days where things are off, but we're processing, than it compacts and become a whole hot mess, right? Find an activity you loved as a kid and do it with your kid. Yes, and we're going to get a little deeper into inner child healing here. So, I'm going to explain something that happened to me this morning, actually. So, I was experiencing a lot of stress and anxiety, and I was in the shower, and instead of not looking at it, I was like, okay, stress and anxiety, I want you to tell me all the reasons that you are having a freak out right now. And so we went through all the self-limiting beliefs, and I was just feeling everything, right? And it's not fun when you're doing it. Like, I'm not gonna say it's like easy peasy, right? But I've done it so many times now that it is a lot easier. And so processing, and then I hear like this little voice inside of me, and I was like, who is that? Because I have connected with a lot of my inner children, but this one was like a new one. And I realized that my business, like what I'm doing now, like talking, has been bringing me a lot of stress and anxiety, because I have been putting like so much pressure on myself and my business. And I was talking to a client yesterday, and we were talking about starting her business, and I was like, let's talk about all the goals that you have and how to achieve those, okay? And I said, sometimes our business is like a child. It's like something you gave birth to, like you gave life to. Okay, so maybe you have a business, an energy healing business, coaching business, whatever that is for you, okay? It's really like a child that you're taking care of, and it's growing and evolving, and you're helping its consciousness expand. It's its own consciousness form. It's you, but it's a little bit different. It's like a perspective lens. My business was like me when I was like 8 years old, and I experienced like a lot of trauma and putting all this pressure on myself and having to prove my worthiness and like a whole bunch of stuff. And I was talking to the consciousness of my business, and she was like, I'm so stressed out. And I was like, why? And she said, because I feel like there's so much pressure and we need to prove ourselves, and I have to worry about it all the time, you know, like all this stuff. And I was like, okay. I said, I realize what I have been doing to you. I asked her what her name was. She said Soul Harmony, and that's the name of my business. And I said, okay, this is where I become the higher self guardian to my business and detach from it as its own consciousness. And I said, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that I've been putting so much pressure on you, thinking that our finances, you're the only way that can come through, because I know that's not true. Right? But I've been like constricting so far down on her and saying like, well, what about this and what about that? And, you know, like all this stuff. And so I was able to release like a ton of like energetic pressure up outside of myself, because now I'm looking in a higher consciousness state at everything. But the only way that I was able to do that this morning was to process through those emotions and let them run through my body first, because I couldn't hear her. I could not hear the blockages and why everything was causing the anxiety, right? After I processed through those, I started saying, like, what brings us good feelings? Like, what makes us happy and joyful? And she was like, I love looking at artistic things on Instagram that have like rainbows and unicorns and fairies and all that stuff. And I said, yeah, that makes us feel great. Once I got my vibration and frequency up, thinking about the emotions that I want my business to bring me, then I could hear her. But if I'm seeping down in anxiety and chaos and self-limiting beliefs and pushing it down and pushing it down and pushing it down and not looking at it, I would have never heard her and been able to step outside of myself and release that trauma energy. So this is what I mean, like, processing your emotions brings so much clarity to your life and can shift your life like dramatically, because now we're stepping into the higher self observation deck up here, instead of manifesting more chaos and negativity and self-limiting beliefs in our life. But it takes that leap of faith of, okay, I know this is going to suck in the moment of feeling these things and looking at my self-limiting beliefs and these heavier emotions, but it is going to serve you on the other end. Okay, so to work through these emotional things, working with your chakras is extremely beneficial. Because when you're trying to heal your whole body and like all the things that have happened and they're out of alignment, it's very overwhelming and exhausting to do that. But if you pick one chakra at a time, and then you pick something very specifically within that chakra to heal, whether that's abandonment wounds, you know, trust, anything, communication things like with your throat chakra, sacral chakra, like your relationships, it's much easier to heal. And then it has ripple effects out to everything else in your life. So I always suggest starting with your root chakra and then working your way up, because your root chakra in your, let me pull this picture. Your root chakra and your sacral chakra and your solar plexus chakra is most of where all that really heavy trauma stuff is sitting. So when we clear all that out, now we can get up to our upper chakras, where like our spiritual gifts, these elated feelings that we want to feel, now we can feel those. And this is what we need to manifest. Okay. Hello. Hello. Oh, Barbara. Barbara says hello as well. That's my snake plant back here. So researching about your chakras, just looking up imbalances will help you figure out where something is out of alignment and how to heal it. So go on Google, type in root chakra imbalances, and I have videos on my main page of my TikTok with those things, and then find something that feels like it's out of alignment and off, and just hyper focus on healing that one thing right now. Like sometimes shadow work is very overwhelming because it's just so much. But if you just focus on one thing at a time, like one self-limiting belief, one trauma point, one emotion, it's going to change everything in your life. It seems counterintuitive, but it's like when you are trying to multitask, it's like you're spreading your energy all over the place, and we got to be more intentional and precise in order to have more effective styles of healing. I'm gonna light this really quick. So with inner children, I wanted to share the things that I see come up most with clients that create these manifesting blocks. Okay, these are behavioral patterns. So we have perfectionism. Perfectionism can come from parents holding too high of expectations of you, and not just parents, like guardians, teachers, like whoever, family members, holding too high of expectations or not supporting you enough. or, you know, they're constantly pushing you. Perfectionism can trip you up in adulthood because it's like, well, I can't go towards my goals or start new projects until it's like exactly right. Does anybody feel that way? You have perfectionism disease, or if you're neurodivergent, sometimes hyper focusing can be or it could trip you up because of perfectionism. Like, we get in that hyper focusing hole and we're like, I'm gonna do this until it's perfect, and then we get burnt out. And sometimes that's why we don't want to start new things. Hey, Lori, because we're afraid that we're gonna start hyper focusing. And perfectionism can also cause like self-worth issues, because you're like, I'm never good enough. Like, I can never reach I can never get enough success. Like, that's a deep wound that I've had to heal, because if you keep on pushing success off, it will never come. Like, like, you have to feel successful in this moment, because that is a never-ending goal that you will continue to chase. Okay. So another one is abandonment wounds. Abandonment isn't always necessarily like your parents leaving you. Abandonment can also be you not having your spiritual needs met, your emotional needs, just food, shelter. Like, those are some of the things, right? Or like, if you were abused, that's a form of abandonment, whether it's physical or emotional. But you not being taught how to process your emotions, or being invalidated, or told to like shut up and be quiet, or maybe if you're a girl and saying like you're not as worthy as boys, you know what I mean? Like, all of those things are forms of abandonment. Abandonment can also be with self. So like this next one here, people pleasing, it's another wound that I see. Sometimes it causes a hyper independence wound. And so you think that you're the only person that you can trust. And so you build up all these guards and walls with people and experiences in life. Okay. And we don't want to start new projects or put time and energy into our business or self, because if we let ourselves down and we're the only person that we can rely on, then that is the worst thing that could possibly happen. Because if you let yourself down and you're the only person you have at the end of the day, then what? That's a big one that I had to work through and heal, because I was I just wasn't taking the steps towards my goals, because I was worried that I was going to let myself down, and I'm all I got. Even though I had family and all that stuff, it was like, at the end of the day, I only got me. Okay, which now I know is not true, but people pleasing is also a big wound, because if you're an empath, light worker, neurodivergent, and you had parents or teachers or guardians with very strong energy fields, sometimes it can cause you to become a very deep frequency reader. So you're picking up on everyone's thoughts, feelings, and emotions all the time. And people pleasing is a safety trauma response. It's like, I have to make sure that everyone around me, it's like, moods are stable and they're happy, so that I feel safe. Does anybody feel that way? That can come through in many different forms, like with your friends or through work. And then we end up having these relationships around us where we're like investing so much time and energy with them, and we're not getting that back in return, or the friendships feel like very hollow, right? Or you can build a whole reality through people pleasing, right? Of like what you think people want of you and what would make them happy. And so it can cause a lot of chaos in your life. Excuse me, you don't want to be yelled at as a kid. Yeah, you like learn to suppress and push down all your emotions and your thoughts and feelings and desires, because we're scared, right? But then that bleeds over into your adulthood, where now we're having issues with boundaries with people, asking for the things that we know that we deserve, standing strong in our beliefs and values, you know. I feel like I have most of these. Yeah, there's a lot of things that, you know, affect us from childhood. But the good thing is we can heal them. Another one is trust issues with other people. This is a big one that I see because, and I'm going to explain how that affects your manifesting. So I had some like major trust issues from childhood. Like that was a huge abandonment wound that I had because of an assortment of things. Okay. And if you have trust issues, and then people in your excuse me, in your childhood or your young adult years hurt you over and over and over again, then you are re-solidifying in your paradigm, in your reality, that people equal mistrust. People equal mistrust. People equal hurt. That's what I was trying to say. And fear. Okay, like you're always having the back of your mind, like people are gonna hurt me. Okay, so that also works with manifesting, because you can mistrust the universe, because the universe is like also a consciousness form, just like a person. And so that's a wound that I had to work on for my manifestations, because I didn't realize how much mistrust I had with manifesting, because I was like, well, people have hurt me and they've let me down, so why would the universe be any different, and why would my manifestations come through? Right? So we need to check, are we having those trust wounds, and correlate them to, oh yeah, that might be why I'm mistrusting myself, that I can bring these manifestations in, right? Because I've been let down. Worthiness is another one. Like maybe you had parents or guardians that told you, you know, you're not worthy. I'm trying to think of like how they would say that. Like you're not good enough, or you'll never be enough, right? So you always feel like you have to earn your manifestations, when you don't need to earn anything. It's not about deserving anything. Like you are an abundant and prosperous being, but it's all the trauma and projections from other people that have been overlaid on you. Like your natural homeostasis point is prosperity and abundance. You don't need to earn anything. Okay, or I'm disappointed in you. Yeah. And so you think that you constantly have to do that type of relationship with the universe and manifesting, when manifesting is just kind of, all we need to do is just align with like the good feelings and realize like that's our natural state, and then those things start to come in. But it's all those like projections and trauma and self-limiting beliefs that other people have put on you. Yes, constantly pointing out flaws and what's wrong with me. Yeah, so that's going to directly affect your manifesting, because you're going to think like, oh, I have to keep on earning the universe's like respect to bring these things in. Okay, so how do we heal these things? I'm going to give you all a couple tips here. And actually, I'm going to pause the live for just a second so I can run to the restroom. So I will be right back. Okay, so thank you for holding. So how do we heal these things? First off, processing your emotions, because it's difficult to see your reality and the steps that you need to take with clarity if you have that heavy, dense trauma and the heaviness of those emotions that are not being processed. It's just more difficult to see things from a higher perspective. And it also teaches you how to heal your inner children, because most of those emotions are coming from childhood that haven't been processed, right? And so then healing your inner children, just doing research about that. I have workshops on my YouTube if you want to watch them. But inner child healing, self-limiting beliefs. Okay, this was a huge one for me. You need to know what your self-limiting beliefs are in order to move forward. Sometimes we don't want to look at those because we're like, oh, that makes me feel bad. Okay, it's making you feel bad for a reason, for you to heal it and move forward. But if you just push them off or sweep them under the rug, then, well, you're going to be stuck there. Okay, and this is me for a long time because I was like, oh, well, I don't want to do that. It doesn't feel good. But if you don't have a compass, you get lost. So your self-limiting beliefs are there to serve you. They're also what help you grow and evolve, because they're like a backboard, a spring, contrast. If you didn't have self-limiting beliefs, then you wouldn't grow. You would just be the same person all the time and just be making the same amount of money in the same career, in an unhealthy relationship. Like, all the things that are not serving you right now, like those self-limiting beliefs, are there to be your fuel to move forward. So I started making friends with my self-limiting beliefs. I started saying like, oh, thank you, just like my emotions, thank you for coming up and showing me that something is out of alignment. And it means I can shift into a new version of myself, a new higher self that's more prosperous and abundant, not just with like money, but like good feelings and better relationships in all areas of my life, right? So especially if you're timeline shifting and all of a sudden you've been doing really good with your self-limiting beliefs and then they just start like flooding in, that means that you're about to jump the hurdle to go to the next level. Okay. I like that. Make a negative a positive. Yes. And so I like to think of my self-limiting beliefs like a fun monster. Okay. It doesn't have to be scary. It's just your shadow self. You got to learn how to integrate those things and that they're there to help you evolve. Okay. I suggest getting out a sheet of paper and whatever you want to manifest and bring in, what are all your self-limiting beliefs? And you got to make time for them. You have to, I wrote here, you have to make time for your fear, because if you don't, it will consume you. Like, there are times where I have all these self-limiting beliefs running in the background, and I'll say, okay, I don't have time to do that right now, but I will make time for you. And then I'll sit down and I'm like, okay, let's go through them all. Tell me all the self-limiting beliefs. And sometimes like self-limiting beliefs just want to be validated, just like emotions. They want you, they're trying to keep you safe. They're saying like, hey, I don't feel like we have a strong foundation right now, or you're trying to shift into a new person and we don't know what that's going to look like on the other side, right? And if sometimes you just say like, I understand that, and I love you, and I appreciate you for telling me that, like, thank you. Now we're pulling away from them. We're channeling them, right? Just like with anything, it wants to be validated. And so treating them like a child and saying like, I get it. Just because we're thinking those things, though, doesn't mean they're true. Like, we have all these what ifs because it's a way to control. Like, if you haven't felt safe and secure as a child, it can cause wounds with control. And when you're trying to shift into a new person, shift into a new life, you have to let go of control. And those self-limiting beliefs are like, what are you doing? So we need to go in and say like, hey, it's okay. These are all the things that could go wrong, but what about all these things that could go right? What your subconscious and those self-limiting beliefs are trying to pull on past narratives of things that have happened over here, right? All the hurt and the trauma. That stuff's real and that stuff happened, but it's in the past. That is not who you are right now, and that's not who you are going to be in the future, unless you latch on to that past narrative. So when we validate and say, okay, well, tell me all the things that could go wrong. Now they've said their piece. Okay. Now you have to come in as a higher self and say, okay, what about the opposite? And then once you start talking about all the things that could go right, the opposite of those self-limiting beliefs, now we're raising our vibration and frequency. Now we're switching the channels, switching the frequency over. You have to validate your emotions and your self-limiting beliefs, because now you're creating energetic space in your field to think of the positives. Once you start doing that, it gains traction. But you have to validate the icky, yucky stuff first. Okay? Let them say their piece. Think about what you're trying to manifest, take out a piece of paper, write down all the beliefs, validate them, and then come in with the opposite. And that might be the opposite of like how that's not true in your life. Like, let's say lack mentality. Like, I can only get money from my job. Have you ever found pennies or dimes on the ground? Has anybody gifted you with money? Have you ever won money? Have you ever got a rebate in the mail you didn't know that you were going to? That's how you cancel out that self-loathing belief. Or like, if you're working on confidence and you're like, I'm not a confident person. Okay, have you ever been confident in your life? Well, then that's the opposite to that self-loathing belief. Those are creating anchor points in your consciousness. Like, if you have a self-loathing belief come up and you give your subconscious evidence of how that thing's not true, even if it was like one time in your life that you experienced feeling successful, your self-limiting belief starts to deprogram, because it's like, oh, maybe that's not true. Maybe these other self-limiting beliefs aren't true, because your subconscious works on evidence-based reality. It's like this or that. So like when I was working on my confidence and self-esteem, like I did not have good confidence and self-esteem. I had self-limiting beliefs to say like, oh, you know, whatever. And I would come back and say, you remember when we did this and we felt very confident? And you remember when we did that and felt very confident? And I started to delayer that. Now I'm a very confident person. Like, I can very confidently say I'm very confident. But that took me doing those anchor point memories with my subconscious. Or like even healing my money mindset. Like, I had this container of like, I couldn't make more than $2,000 a month because I thought that the only way I could make money was from my job. I shifted into making like $10,000 a month by realizing like that's just simply not true, because I get money from all different places and spaces. And I had to keep reiterating those things to my subconscious. Like, nope, remember, like, that's valid. I love you. Thank you for saying that because you're trying to keep us safe. Okay. But that's not true because of this. And so that's going to take mental work on your end. Like, it's not easy in the beginning. Like, sometimes you, oh, thank you for that, Alyssa. Thank you. If you're watching on YouTube, that my friend Alyssa sent me a gift. It's cute. It's a little scepter. It's going to take a lot of work on your part, and that's where people trip themselves up because they don't want to put in the work. And they don't want to feel those feelings and those emotions. But if you want to bring a new reality and manifestations in, you got to clear that stuff out. And something also I realized is you are always going to have self-limiting beliefs. Every time you level up in life, you get a new set. And once I realized that, I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to put so much weight on them, because now I understand that they're there to help me grow and evolve, and they're always going to be there. Like, every time I expand my wealth container, or I do something new in my business, or I reach a new level of confidence and self-esteem, I'll be doing great, and then all of a sudden I get slammed in the face with a whole new set of stuff. Just a different perspective lens on them. And now I'm just like, okay, great. Now it's time for us to grow and shift and evolve again. And I'm going to validate them for the ways that they're feeling. It's the same thing with working with your inner children. Now we're channeling them, and they're not us. We're just channeling. It is a fear trauma response that those self-limiting beliefs are coming up, because it's like we don't feel in control. Okay, so you have to become the higher self. You have to create safety, feelings of safety within yourself to be able to let go of those self-limiting beliefs. Okay, so, and making time for your fear. You have to do that, because if you don't, you're just in fight or flight. And you have stress, and you have all those cortisol hormones running through your body. You cannot manifest effectively if you are stressed and anxious all the time. It will not happen, because you are manifesting from those lower, denser vibrations and frequencies, and so that's what you're going to get more of. That's why when we get blocked on things, you are manifesting through the wrong lens. You have to feel happiness and joy and bliss and peace and serenity before your manifestation comes in, because underneath your manifestation are those emotions. right? Yeah, working against yourself. And again, it's totally normal to feel those heavier, dense ones. We love those because that's how we know what we want to manifest, how we know the things that we don't want. But if we're not processing them, then they get stuck up in our energy field and it's manifesting from them instead of working with them, if that makes sense. So something that helped me was asking, like, whose voice is this? And hey, Ashley, if you have self-limiting beliefs that are like berating you and just like running amok, ask yourself, who did I learn that from? Because you think that's you. Okay. That is probably a parent or guardian or a teacher or a friend that said that to you, and then you started running that programming, but you think it's your own thought because you hear it in your voice. But next time you have think of a self-limiting belief right now that you have about yourself or your life. Where did that come from? Was that from your mom or your dad because they also had those fears and projections and they taught you to have them too? Right? Because I'll give you an example. So I was hosting this workshop and I haven't had this self-limiting belief come up in a long time. I was very shocked. Okay. And something went awry while I was doing the presentation. And when I got off, I started having a panic attack. And all of a sudden I heard this voice in my head. It was like, you're so dumb and you're so stupid and nobody's going to think that you know what you're talking about and your business is going to fail. And I was like, where is that coming from? And I took a minute and I said, where did that come from? Whose voice was that? And my inner child said, oh, I remember when my grandma, when she raised me, my grandmother had horrible self-esteem and confidence, and she would constantly call herself stupid and dumb. And little Brittany, my name's Sage now, but little Brittany picked up on what she was saying, and then I started to internalize that as my own voice, and then I started to hear it in my own voice, and then I started to believe that was me saying those things. And when I talked to my inner child and I was like, hey, just because somebody said that about themselves doesn't mean it's true for us, right? That's their own belief. She was like, oh yeah. And I was like, do you think that you're dumb and stupid? And she was like, no. She was like, I just heard it, over and over again. And I was like, yeah, that has nothing to do with us. That was her thing that she had going on, right? And then I had to validate her for feeling that way, though. I'm like, yeah, it did suck that we messed up on that presentation. We put a lot of time and energy into it, but we're not going to hinge our success on that. Like, we put together this awesome workshop, and we showed up, and we helped a lot of people heal and transform, and, like, now we know for next time. And it was an easy fix. I was like, it's not that big of a deal, right? Our intelligence does not hinge on that one mistake that we made, right? So this is where we got to ask ourselves, whose voice is this that is talking to me? Is that your parent, teacher, guardian, friend that said that to you one time and then you just latched onto it and then heard it in your voice over and over and over and over again? Because when you start to detach from it, you start to realize, like, oh, maybe I don't really think that about myself. And then when you start letting go of one self-limiting belief, just one, it starts to have ripple effects into your other ones, because then your subconscious starts to question, like, oh, maybe all these other ones that I was thinking are not true. That is really how I shifted my life, is realizing, like, my brainscape that I had built is not actually mine. It was coming from other people's projections and traumas and their fears and their worries. Okay. You also need to be really careful about who you're sharing your dreams and visions and goals with, because even if people don't say it, you can feel their doubt, and then it starts to seep into your subconscious, and then you start to question self. Like, I don't share all my business with everybody. I share my business with people that are going to give me constructive criticism and don't have that doubt. They're like, oh yeah, that's cool, I believe you can do that. How are you going to do that? It's different than somebody else coming in and saying, like, okay. Because if nobody understands your vision and your goals but you. You're the only one that is looking through your perceptual lens, right? Don't take advice from people that are not where you want to be in life. Like, if they're not forward moving, they're not goal and solution based oriented, they're not about seeing the bigger picture and what is possible, don't be taking advice from people like that. Like, why would you take advice from somebody that's miserable in their life? Or it's all about drama and chaos? Like, you need to be taking advice from people that are moving in a direction that is similar to you. Not exactly the same, but forward moving. Okay? And hold those perceptions over you like, yeah, that's cool. I believe you can do that. What can I do to help you? Or let's brainstorm and figure out how to bring this into your reality. Right? Yeah, I feel that from a husband a lot. Yeah, it can be your own family, your own partners, or even your kids. Share your dreams and goals and visions with people that you know are going to help push you forward. You don't need to share everything with everybody. Okay. You're also protecting your inner children when you do that. Because your inner children, if you have mistrust in others and self and the universe, it's doing damage to your inner children to subject them to other people's fears like that. Right? Because they lose faith. Okay, so we need to be thinking about protecting them. Okay, so memories and emotions. If you have a self-limiting belief that comes up, okay, we need to attach to it a memory where that is not true, even if it's the one time. Okay, and then we need to think about an emotion that we want to feel. Okay, so this is like a little shortcut for manifesting. So let's say that you want to manifest a house and you are super stressed about it because you're like, when is it going to happen? How am I going to afford it? All this stuff. What you're doing is you're pumping stress and anxiety into it and pushing it further away from you in the etheric field. Or let's say that you want to manifest $10,000 and you're like, oh my God, when's it going to happen? And we're so stressed and anxious. Okay, you're pushing it away from you in the etheric field. So I want you to think about a manifestation right now that you want to bring in. You could share it in the chat if you want to, or just do it in your mind. What is something that you're currently manifesting? What is the emotion that thing is going to bring you? Is it safety, security, fun, peace, joy, happiness? What is the emotion? Okay. So I want you to think about a time in your life when you have felt that emotion before. Like maybe it's the birth of a child, or you graduating college, or you getting the job you wanted, whatever that is. Think about right now, what is a memory that has brought me that emotion? Then I want you to sit in that memory and bring up that emotion within yourself. It's very easy when you're thinking about a memory that has already happened. Like maybe you went to a beach one time and you just felt so at peace and so connected. And we're just going to sit in that, how we felt when we were there. Now you're going to think about your manifestation because you switch your frequency channel. Now we're sitting in peace and joy and happiness instead of stress. And you're going to tell the universe, this is what I want my manifestation to feel like. I want it to feel like when I was at the beach and I felt at peace and happiness and joy. Because now we're pumping positive vibrations and frequencies, and the universe is like, oh, here you go. And it pulls it in so much quicker to you, right? We're resetting the vibration and frequency with our manifestation. And I'll give you an example. So the other day, I was at a baseball game, and I started having self-limiting beliefs come up about financial stuff, right? And so I had this candy box that was with me. It was like sour mints. And I ate one and I was like, how does it make me feel? And I said, oh, the sour candy is like electric. It's exciting. And there's plenty of it. There was like a ton of them in the tent. I was like, this is how I want my money to feel. I want it to feel just like this candy, the emotion that this candy is bringing me right now. As soon as I did that, my frequency shifted over. I felt great about my finances, like immediately. Right? I said, universe, I wanted to feel just like this. And I was on a walk last night and I had some like self-limiting beliefs come up about my money, or not money, my business, right? and I saw these like ducks that were out on the lake, and they had like these pom poofy things up on their head. And I was like, that brings me so much joy. Like, that's really fun and like magical, these little ducks over here. And instantly I felt better, and I was like, that's how I want my business to feel. I want my business to feel like those little ducks over there, their little pom poofs, and magical and whimsical. Instantly let go of that self-limiting belief. So this is your shortcut when we're stressed and anxious, thinking about our manifestation. What is the emotion you want it to bring you? Think of a memory when that has happened in your life. Sit in that for 1 minute, okay, or look around you, and then switch over back to the manifestation. Tell the universe this is what you want to feel. Okay? You need to find pockets throughout your day of how that emotion is already in your life. Did somebody buy you a coffee? Did somebody pay you a compliment? Did you see something really fun and colorful and magical and whimsical? Latch on to that and say, thank you, universe. This is exactly how I want my manifestations to feel. You are grabbing onto that manifestation and pulling it into you so much more quickly instead of pushing it away. Mine used to be up in an oak tree. I used to stay and constantly played with birds and butterflies. Yeah, see? Like a beautiful, beautiful memory that you can be like, this is exactly what I want it to feel like. And you'd be so surprised about how quickly your manifestations can come in. Like, time does not work linearly. When you're working through the etheric field, the universe will like set things up for you. Like, you don't have to hustle and grind 24/7 to bring things in. When you work with your emotions and your inner children and doing these like kind of like workarounds, right? Come in very, very quickly. Spirit, apply what Sage is bringing in for manifestations and limiting beliefs, please, and thank you. Yay. Hey, hello, hey Diana. Okay, so we're going to talk about 2 more things that you can do to help your manifestations here. Let me pull it up. Nope. Where did it go? Oh, there it is. Okay. So we all know what vision boards are, right? Like, your vision board is like up on the wall, and it has all these like dreams, goals, and aspirations up there. We like love that. But if you're neurodivergent, a vision board is not always going to be the best option for you, because we forget about things after like 2 days. Like, it becomes part of the wall. We like newness. We like freshness. We like to chase the dopamine. Okay. And if you just have it up on your wall, like, you're gonna pay attention to it for like a week, and then you're done with it. If you are neurodivergent, it doesn't matter which ritual you're doing. Like, that's a lesson that I learned and I teach my clients, is it literally doesn't matter what you're doing, because you have to mix it up. Otherwise, you're going to get bored, and it's going to get stuck and stagnant, and then you're just going to be like, I'm not doing this, and then you don't pick up another one, and then you wonder why your manifestations stop coming in, and you stop feeling good. So if you do a different manifestation ritual every single day and that works for you, that's fine, because it's actually a big ritual that you're doing. You're doing a ritual of having a new ritual every day. All you're doing is keeping it in the forefront of your mind, prosperity and abundance. Not just money, but like good feelings, happiness, joy, bliss, right? If having a new one every day works, great, but you have to have one. Because once you stop doing these things, then the negativity and the self-limiting beliefs start coming in, and like then you start proving to your subconscious, because your manifestations stop, like it just starts spiraling out of control. Has anybody done that before, where you're like really good with your manifestations, and like people are paying you compliments, you're getting people paying for your stuff, money starts showing up all over the place, and then boop, and just everything just like goes out of control? It's because you're not keeping up with your ritual things that you're doing. Okay, so you have to just have a different tool bag. Like, I have a whole bunch of different things that I do, like journaling, listening to affirmations, doing the emotion memory thing, and another one that I'm about to show you. But like, I have a whole tool bag, and I just pick a new one every day. It keeps it fresh. Okay, it is fun when I do it that way. So this is one of them. TikTok pulls people with ADHD, gives you dopamine. If you were to get people direction, yeah, that's where most of my clients come from, is TikTok, because I work with neurodivergent people. So it's a great platform for me in my business. Okay, so vision boards are great if they work for you and everything, but if they're not really working for you, you can't really add to them. Like, we glue pictures on and then they're just kind of there, right? And sometimes things fall out of alignment, or you want new things, and it's like a whole process to like make a new one. Okay, so I made a Pinterest vision board. So I add pictures in every day, and it's not about the things, it's about the energy. Like, there are things that I specifically want, like go to Australia and Costa Rica and things that I want for my home and stuff. But this is more about the vibe. This is how I feel internally. Okay, every time I go back in here, I'm cultivating my life algorithm. I'm saying, universe, bring me more of this feeling. Bring me more color. Bring me more aliveness and peace and happiness and joy. And I take things out when they don't resonate. Right? But I'll hold it up so y'all can see. It's about the vibe. This is me aligning to my higher self. It looks like unicorns and fairies threw up in here. Okay, your Pinterest board might look completely different. It's up to you. But there's a whole bunch of different artwork in here. This is also how I want my clients to feel. This is how I want them to feel when they're working with me in my energy field. And this is how I want to feel. Right? You put anything you want here. You have different Pinterest boards for different things. Like, I have one for Australia and Costa Rica and, you know, all these different places. But just make it fun. And when I'm feeling low vibe during the day, and I have self-limiting beliefs pop up, I come in my Pinterest board, I'll just be adding things in here. Right? Like, oh, this is so fun. Okay? But the only reason that I have these things in my Pinterest board is because these are in my realm of capability to have. Like, you only resonate with the things that are in your capability of materializing. Right? So anyway, I would try this. It has made a huge difference, because now the days that I do this, my day is much more magical and whimsical, because what you pour energy and attention into and cultivate your own algorithm is the output that you get as well. Like, my day is so much more fun when I do this, because I'm telling the universe, I love this. Bring me more of this. Okay. It also makes me feel really happy when I look at it. So I'm in my saddies. Okay. Coming here for a couple minutes, I feel so much better. Okay. But it's a Pinterest vision board. Like I said, you can take things out too if they don't resonate with you. Okay. So the last thing is taking your children on internal journeys. So the reason that we want to process our emotions is so we can heal our inner children, and then healing our inner children lets go of the behavioral patterns and the triggers and the self-limiting beliefs that are keeping us stuck. Because when you heal your inner children, my brother manifested his wife 13 years ago doing this. I love that. Because when you process your emotions, heal your inner children, and let go of the behavioral patterns and the triggers and the heaviness, trauma, energy, your inner children are so tapped into their magic and imagination and creativity and what is possible. They don't have all the filter lenses that you do. Okay? They are like fairies, unicorns. I can be anything, do anything that I want. But if they're still living in heavy, dense trauma energy, they can't connect back to their magic and help you experience more fun and whimsy, right? Because we all know that when we're doing things that are like inner child-esque, it makes us so happy. Swinging on foot swings, blowing bubbles, doing coloring, you know, all that stuff. Your inner kids can help you expand your spiritual gifts like none other. Like, I was already doing inner energy healing and like coaching before I started really diving in with my inner children. But when I connected in with them, my gifts like skyrocketed, because my adult logical brain, okay, stressed out sage, is like living in a more of a constricted reality. But when I connect with them, it is like night and day. And so this is why all these steps are so important to be able to get to them. So I went to a Day of the Dead play, and it was like a musical. Took myself and my inner kids. We go to the play. Super fun. Loved it. Sitting there watching, and this lady walks out, and she has this like beautiful ruby red dress, like gorgeous. She looked like $1 million. My inner child within me said, I wish we could afford that. That was lack programming, and because I grew up very poor, and because we always had to shop at secondhand stores, and people used to make fun of me in high school all the time because I didn't have like designer brand wear, okay? It's just a lot of like trauma stuff sitting back there. And I told her, my inner child, while I'm sitting watching this play, I said, we can have anything that we want in here at any time, and we have to feel it in here first to be able to bring it into our physical reality. So I said, I want to do something with you. So I'm sitting there, and I said, watch this, and I snapped my fingers, and she was wearing the dress. And she was like, oh my God. She was like, I was like, how does that make you feel? And she was like, I feel fabulous. I'm so happy. And I said, yeah, you can do anything in here, and we can already have those good feelings. And then when we have those good feelings, then the universe brings us the actual manifestation. And I do those things all the time with my inner kids. I will take them on trips to Hawaii and Costa Rica, and take them on hot air balloon rides, and just really get into my imagination and creativity, and it helps heal them, because I'm showing them like our internal reality is just as real as our external reality, but we have to feel it in here first before we can see it out here. Like some of y'all may have heard this example before, but my son was like, I want to go to Disney World. And I said, okay. I said, and it's, to me, like at that time, single mom, just started a new business, I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to afford that. Like, absolutely no way. But I was like, you know what, universe, if it's meant to be, I'm going to hand that over to you and let you take care of it, but I'm going to work on my internal stuff. Hey, May, I'm going to work on my internal stuff. So I started taking my inner children on trips to Disney World in here. Felt like what it would like be on a roller coaster, just having the whole experience first. Okay. My son's grandmother on his dad's side called us a couple days later and was like, do you want to go on a trip to Disney World? I'm paying for all of it. And we went to Disney World for a week. And it was all paid for. And I pulled that through the etheric field and made that, you know, she didn't have to ask me. She's on my son's father's side. Okay, so I don't have any direct relation to her, but me working on myself made it ping in her like, hey, I should ask Brittany too. Or Brittany at the time, I'm Sage now, but Brittany at the time. I'm still getting used to calling myself that. But you have to work on the internal stuff first and shift your mind of what is possible and feel those feelings first. That was an anchor point in my consciousness. I was like, I can manifest anything. Okay, I'm talking about, it was like 3 days later that she called. Okay. So happy I stumbled upon your live today. Oh, good. I'm glad to have you here. But you have to feel it in there first, and that's how you tell the universe what you want. Do you want more negativity and chaos and self-limiting beliefs and those emotions that you're not processing? Or do you want to have the happy feelings and the joy and the bliss and peace and serenity, safety, security? That's actually what you want to manifest. It's not actually about the manifestations. It's about the feelings and the emotions. So take your inner children on those journeys, or past versions of you, right? Like there's this music festival that I want to go to. I used to go to like tons of music festivals, and there's one in particular that I've always wanted to go to, so I took me, younger version of me, that used to go to festivals, and I was like, let's go to this one together. And we did an internal journey, right? And then I added things into my Pinterest board from that music festival, like pulling it in. And how are we going to feel when we're at the festival? We're going to feel excited, we're going to feel happy and joyful and fun and magic and whimsy. And I was telling her, we can do that right now. We don't actually have to be there on the outside. We can do it in here first, and then we will pull it in. We're not going to worry about the money. We're not going to worry about how we're going to get there. What we're going to focus on is feeling the feelings. Okay? Because the universe is trying to send you things in all different types of ways. Like, if I had let that doubt creep in my mind of like, well, I'm a single mom and I can't afford that to go to Disney World, then that experience would have not come my way. I had to open up to the realm of possibilities. Right? And tell the universe, like, I'm ready, I'm doing the work. Okay, so hopefully this helps with our manifestation chats and processing emotions and healing inner child. Daisy, are you okay? My dog's Hoffman over here. Okay. Anyway, if you want to work together to also shift your reality and learn about these things on a much deeper level and have a step-by-step process, step-by-step guide, I have a multi-dimensional magic course. It's 6 hours worth of content, and it's self-paced, and I talk about all these things like super, super, super in-depth. I lay out a manifestation map for you. How to align your chakras, how to heal your inner children, how to process your emotions, how to stop taking on other people's thoughts, feelings, and emotions, tapping into your Akashic records, how to timeline shift, how to not only heal your inner children, but actually like work with them as their own consciousness forms, because that's how you heal at an Akashic level. But that's available in my bio or down here in the description. I also have a mentorship program, and this is where we do all this work together. Because it's one thing to work on the things yourself, and that's great. But if you have somebody that's been there, done that, and can serve as a guide and a mirror to you and show you how all the things are correlated and connected and help walk you through all these processes, sometimes it's a lot easier, right? So I teach you all the things I have learned on my journey and how I've shifted my life. I will check that out, and turned on your live notifications. Will you be coming back soon as well? I don't have any like set times that I come on live, because I go with kind of my energy and the collective consciousness, right? And like what I feel people are going through. But I do have a Discord where I let people know beforehand, like an hour or so beforehand, if you want to join. Or if anybody wants to join, you can send me a message and I'll give you the link. And I put in like tons of resources in there too for like your journey. And there's a lot of cool people in there, spiritual people, woo people. I will check that out. Okay, cool. So if you want to check out my Shine Your Light program, that's the mentorship program. There's a link in my bio and link down here in the description. That is 12 weeks of us working together one-on-one to make all these shifts. Okay, everybody. Well, thank you for coming to this space. I'm always very appreciative, because even, you know, I'm talking, but y'all are also giving feedback, so I appreciate that as well, and working through everything, and us coming together to heal is healing the collective. Even if you're only focusing on what's going on in your life and healing your self-limiting beliefs and generational trauma and inner children, your money mindset, it's having ripple effects out into the rest of the collective, right? Because sometimes we feel this big weight of like, I gotta help everybody. You focus on you and the things around you shift. And not saying to like not be part of your community and stuff, but you shift in here, it shifts everything out here. People, experiences, the collective, everything. Okay. Oh, hey, Nicole. Hey. I love when you come on and teach. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. This will be up on YouTube if you want to watch it. It'll be up there tomorrow. Should be up there tomorrow, but I have a lot of other workshops on there too. And as always, if you have any questions about any things I was talking about, you can always reach out to me. And I have ways to work together in my bio link. All right, everybody. I hope you have a magical day, and I will see you next time.